Thank you for the invitation to talk to all of you on how to write research proposal. With that, let me just start by sharing a screen and then we will take it from there. Today's topic is how to write a research proposal. A research proposal is the most important step in conducting research. Now, this is very important. I may have great idea, I may be a great researcher, I may have great skills, but if I cannot generate funding for the idea that I have to execute, I may not be able to execute my research idea. So, it is very important that the research proposal that is presented or that is written is done in a proper way, and that is why we are here for. Let me give you a feel. Currently in DST about 30% of the proposals get funded, means like 60-70% of the proposals are turned down. What can be the reason for which a proposal is turned down? There can be two reasons. Either there is not much money, there is not much funds to fund those proposals, or if the proposals are not good enough, are not written well, are not thought out well. Now, if you ask the committee members who are there sitting in the funding committees, they would say that it is the latter. They would say that the proposals aren't good enough. It's not that they lack funds, and sometimes they make sense also, because many times the DST or the funding agencies, they are unable to spend the allocated money of a particular financial year in supporting research grant. They have to return the money. So, many times they say that it's not written well, and there may be other factors, there may be budget crunch. So, the most of the time it is otherwise, like they blame it, saying that the proposal is not written well, and that is what brings us over here this afternoon. Now, what should be a proposal like? What should be a good proposal like? A good proposal should be clean. By clean I mean crisp. All unwanted things, what are not necessary, redundancy, all those issues should be taken care of, and well thought out research plan. Something has to be extremely good. Now, what is the objective of a research proposal? Objective of the research proposal can be twofold. One is the long term objective and the one is the immediate objective. Now, long term objective would only come into play if the immediate objective is met. And what is the immediate objective? The immediate objective would be to obtain the approval of the funding committee. But for most of us that would be ACRB and so on. So, this immediate objective has to be met, and to keep that in mind, one has to prepare a good quality research proposal. Keeping that in mind, one has to prepare a good quality research proposal. And again, we come back to what would be a good quality research proposal. We have sort of touched upon the topic that it has to be clean, it has to be well thought out, redundancy has to be eliminated, so on and so forth. And as I progress today through this discussion, we are going to touch upon this aspect of what would be a good quality research proposal. If we look at how this funding agency and the research community primarily work, and if you examine it properly, you would see that the thing which is emphasized upon is how to connect your work to the big picture. How does your research work benefit the society? So, this is very important. How does it connect to the big picture? Everybody is asking, the funding that one would be getting would be taxpayer money. The taxpayer may ask that how does it benefit us? Connection to the big picture is very relevant, it is very important. So, a research proposal should show how the work fits into what exists on the topic, and what it will add to the literature. How does it really benefit? How does it advance the science? It should clearly say that how it assimilates with the existing knowledge, how it adds to the literature, and what questions will it answer, what will be its significance, and what will be the implications of the answer. So, this connection to the big picture can be seen from these 5 things. The 5 things are what? How the proposed work assimilates with the present knowledge. Second thing is what it will add to the literature. Third would be what question will it answer. Fourth would be what would be the significance of the results, and fifth would be what all the implications of the results. Okay. So, basically the thing is that the assimilation, how does it assimilates, how does it adds, what brings it new, what question does it answer, significance and implication of the results. So, these are 5 things when one thinks about the research proposal. Whatever one has in mind, one should see that where does it stand with respect to the present, what it will add if this knowledge is successfully gained, then what question will be answered, what will be the significance of the answer, and what will be the far reaching consequences or implications of that results. These are very important, particularly right now government funding agencies, lot of time they complain that academic research sometimes is undertaken without a proper objective, just on the basis of academic curiosity, and even the person at that point of time may not have overall goal or idea as to how the results may benefit. Many a times in academia the results are obtained, the meaning of which, significance of which is unraveled 20 years later by somebody else. There also happens, and academia is an unrestrained community. So, sometimes asking these hard questions right in the beginning may not be very productive as well, but given the constraint, given the limited resources, given the direction in which the society is moving, now these are the hard questions which are being asked right in the beginning of research, right at the proposal stage. And this is not only with our country. Actually, as I said, no, I was going out to the discussion that around 30% is the success rate with DST, that is a premier Indian funding agency. Now, if you compare the same with that of NSF, National Science Foundation, or the other premier funding agencies of USA and Europe, there even the success rate is much lower, maybe 15%, 10%. So, that means that people are conducting academic research right now in tremendous pressure as to get their research funding, and that is a story which is being seen globally. Everybody is asking that why should we fund research. I am not going to the debate as to why it is important to fund research and what should be the counter argument, but would focus on writing a good research proposal in this particular topic. So, as I said, these are the hard questions, and a well thought out research plan should have all these points, or at least have some idea on all these 5 existing points. Now, the idea is that once these 5 points are addressed, then with these 5 points the proposal should be able to convince the evaluation committee about the credibility, achievability, practicality of the proposal. So, these markers like significance, this, that should be able to convince the committee that this proposal needs to be funded. The proposal should not be totally out of the world, like the proposal should not be something that you promise moon, and whether that will be realized or not, that is different. That would reflect poorly on the proposal. One has to be able to propose what is achievable, what is doable. It is not something one proposes something which is fantastic, but can never be realized in a 3-year, 36-man-month project. And such kind of proposals are also very easily seen through and shot down, in the sense that they will say it's not very well thought out, it's not very well written, and hence this is not good. The proposal should convince the evaluation committee about the credibility, practicality, achievability of the experiments of the proposed research. Now, the evaluation committee, that is the hurdle that the proposal, immediate hurdle the proposal has to surpass. The evaluation committee has different expectations, and it is very heterogeneous. Heterogeneous in terms of the constituent. The evaluation committee may have different expectations about the proposal based on its members who are at the committee. And why? Because the committee is not uniform, it's heterogeneous. So the committee may consist of academic colleagues. These are bunch of academics like the researcher himself. There may be some friends or some professor, some teacher. The expectations of academic colleagues would be in line with the proposed researcher. They are in the same footing. In addition to that, there may be policymakers. Policymakers would be the one, they would have absolutely no idea of what's being written in the proposal, absolutely no idea. On the other hand, they may be the voice which will call the shots, because they would be the one who would look into the financial aspects of the funding agency. So they are policymakers. They look for the long term goal of the society, but they may not have understanding as to how the nitty-gritty details of that proposal is going to have a long lasting effect, but they are the significant one in the committee. And these policymakers, they would be in the committee, they would get their understanding through peer review comments or the other academic colleagues, their reading of the proposal. Or these policymakers, they would make a uniform opinion about the proposal through various sources or through other committee members, but it is them who may have a significant say in the overall outcome of the fate of the particular proposal. Then there will be practitioners of the field. There would also be researchers and as well as lay audience. Lay audience would be from the management, from the administration, so on and so forth. So all of these would be in the evaluation committee, and as a result their input in the collective outcome of the proposal would at somehow dictate the fate of the proposal. Then what is the way out? The way out would be that one has to be practical, one has to be persuasive, one has to make a broader link, then aim for crystal clarity and plan before you write. So the way out, because it is not a single kind of audience in the evaluation committee that one has to deal with, it will be a heterogeneous audience, that they may be all talking different languages, but the proposal has to convince all of them in saying that this is what needs to be funded, whether they understand it or not, and the onus of that resides on the researcher who is writing the proposal. So a good research proposal, as I said, that as I would go on, would come back on this theme of what would be a good research proposal. Preparation of a good research proposal should make it look like persuasive, then connect to big picture, should aim for crystal clarity in proposal, should be well thought out. The thought processes has to be arranged, well planned. So to plan before writing, this should be the aim of a good research proposal. Now being persuasive is very important. It is like hammering the point. Like when we teach, there is a distinction as to when we teach a class versus when we give a seminar. When we teach a class, we make a presentation to our audience which supposedly young students who are not our peers. Whereas when we make a seminar presentation and present our scientific, we present it to our audience which are our peers scientifically, so they would be on the same foundation of knowledge or even higher. Now, the distinct method we use, that when we present it to students where there is a knowledge gradient and that they are at a lower foundation than the presenter, then we hammer in the point. We repeat, say something and then elaborate and then go back and say the same thing, and then again elaborate and again go back and stress on the same thing. So, as a young mind, as a young student, when he is out of the lecture, when he comes out, he will remember the same point because it has been hammered in couple of times. Whereas, we do not repeat when we make a scientific presentation, because the audience would be a par with our knowledge or even higher or slightly lower. So, that repetition is not there. Now, in a research proposal, this persuasiveness has to be there, that the committee members, these heterogeneous bureaucrats, scientists, practitioners, colleagues, even administrative people, they have to feel that this research is worth funding, is worth getting approval. How do you achieve that? So, that means you have to uphold two things: why your research is important, what would be the significance. That is the main thing. The significance has to be upheld, significance of the research, that has to be upheld. Second thing is this, the language, the crystal clarity in word. So, if I use very complex, complicated jargon and try to make me seem like very erudite, very scholarly, however, none of the committee members may understand what I am really meaning to say, that may throw them off board. So, that language itself may put them off. Two things, as I said, for the persuasiveness, that it has to say, uphold the significance of the work, and that has to be done in a very simple language, So, the proposal, a good research proposal, good persuasive research proposal should describe the significance of the results in simple language meant for non-specialists to understand without use of jargon. This is very important. A persuasive research proposal should describe the significance in a simple language meant for non-specialists to understand. Many times we get carried away, we get lost in showcasing our scholarliness, but that many times has a counter effect than what it was supposed to. A well thought out, simple language, short sentences is what is the norm. A good research proposal should convey intelligent understanding of the existing literature of the proposer. Even though one may be using simple language to understand the significance, but it should convey intelligent understanding of the existing literature. It should feel the person who is proposing has read and understood the existing literature. And also, not to propose the moon. The proposer should think about the time needed to conduct each stage of research. So, it has to be well thought out, and a plan to conduct each stage of the proposal. Most of the cases, it is a 36-man month proposal that we head for currently for most of the funding agencies in India. It is only 3 years at most. Within 3 years, one has to have a practical approach as to what can be delivered. It is no point promising moon and then not being able to get it. Also, please remember that our research career is about 30-35 years at most. It is not one of a thing, researcher somehow get one time big grant and that should be big enough so last in his career. No, a research grant definitely will expire after 3 years. So, if somebody gets first research grant but does not get a good review of the proposed plan, the next research grant may not come by. One has to have a big picture in mind when submitting a research proposal. So, one need not seem to look like a failure just because of what one has promised earlier in penning down the proposal. One has to be realistic in proposing the research proposal. So far, what I have done is I have focused on three things. What is the objective of a research proposal? Second thing, in defining what would be a good research proposal, and third thing is the what would be the expectation of the committee member who would be reviewing the proposal. On those 3 points I have spent this 15-20 minutes of talk that I have given till now. So, now I will go to the body of the research proposal. What would be the content of a research proposal? So, the content by and large these are uniform across nations, across funding agencies, here and there little bit some formatting difference and all. There is a large uniformity. They may vary little bit depending on funding agencies, but by and large it would be the same. And the content, the body of a research proposal would thus contain title of the proposal, important, and this most of us know, name and affiliation of the investigator, and these are called principal investigator. And co-investigator if there is any, if it is a collaborative project, then a co-investigator have to be there. And then institutional affiliation, this would mean like endorsement letters from head of the department or some other thing that may say that the researcher is a bona fide employee of the institute. All of this, after that there should be introduction, we will touch upon it. Now, introduction, as I said, would be how the proposed work is linked to the existing literature. So, the assimilation of the literature with respect to the existing work. Introduction also has a review of national as well as international expert in that particular area. Then comes aims and objectives. These are what are the deliverables, what would be the results, the main important results. Then research design and methods. This is basically in chemist layman terms work plan or methodology, what the researcher proposes to use. Then ethical consideration, if somebody is doing any animal studies or some human subjects for some medicinal purpose or something, that may require some extra permission based on the ethics committee guidelines and all from the parent institute as well from national institute or so. So, those ethical considerations has to be spelled out in the beginning. Then budget and appendices, and lastly citations. These are sort of common format for most of the funding agencies, little bit here and there. So, the overall guideline remains the same, and these are common not only among funding agencies within our country, but also are common with funding agencies of different countries as well. I will briefly touch on some of the key points of what I just mentioned, and then we will try to wind up towards the end. We will start with introduction. Introduction should emphasize the need for the study or needs for the proposed work. It is very important. This is where the persuasiveness comes in, because one has to be able to convince that this is an important study, that the need for the study is important, and or it sets the initial pitch for the research plan. Now, there may be so many things that needs to be done, but only few can really be funded, and a good proposal should make sure that this proposal would fall in the proposals which need to be funded. So, the initial pitch for the proposal has to be good. Introduction creates the impression. Let us say when we go to interview, if somebody is dressed up well, put on good clothes, the first impression that creates, sometimes even that makes the day. Whereas if somebody just walks up and is not prepared and is not even groomed, even that creates a bad impression to the committee, and many times may be overlooked also because of lack of seriousness. So, the introduction provides the pitch for the need of the study and creates the first impression, and this first impression is very important, or to elevate the proposal. The introduction should be designed to create interest in the reader about the topic and the proposal. This is very important. And what are the reader? Reader is 4 types: colleagues, then bureaucrats, administrators, and practitioners. So, some are experts, some are non-experts, but good introduction should create interest alike in all. So, it should be very well written. It should convey to the reader what the researchers want to do, why the field needs the study, and the passion behind the proposal of the researcher. That has to come out through introduction. One way to go about it, that there are some standard questions, that who will this topic benefit, or who will this topic interest, what do we know about the topic, what has been answered so far on that particular topic, what remains to be answered, what this research will bring in. There are few standard questions that can be put across while writing the introduction. After introduction comes review of literature or literature review. There is a famous thing called 5 C's while writing. So, one has to keep focus on the literature, then compare the results, proposed results with the existing literature, contrast, then one has to analyze and provide a critical comment, and then connect the literature to the big picture. There are 5 C's for writing literature review. One is cite. Now, cite is very important. Cite only the relevant literature. Now, many times this is not done properly. What needs to be cited is not cited, and what need not be cited, what is remotely connected to the work, are cited. That happens when we do not really read the paper that we are citing. Now, if caught citing reference which is not relevant by some expert in the committee, that creates a very bad impression on the researcher as well as on the proposal, because then the practitioner or the expert in the area feels that the person has just blindly cited. So, the first C's, first capital C's, big C's of writing, that cite only the relevant papers. Then the next is compare arguments, theories, methodologies, what approaches people have taken. So, compare other people's work in the proposed area. What are the approaches, what other people have done, how many different ways this has been attempted to solve. Similarly, contrast. The next C is contrast. Contrast means compare and see what are the commonalities, what are the disagreements, controversies, debate that exists in the area. Then critical comment. Now, this is something which is your own. Now that you have compared and contrast, what is your view? How do you describe author's wisdom about the developments? What is your view? What is the researcher's view? And the last of the C's is connect, and this means connect to the big picture, significance of the work. Also, sometimes there are funding agencies where you have to give review on national and international status. So, there you have to review work on the national experts or international experts. In many cases, it so happens that the expert that you are reviewing, they would be part of the panel which will scrutinize the proposal, and if some very critical or important reviewers work is ignored and that person happens to be in the reviewing committee, so that may create a bad impression about the proposal by the evaluator, thinking that the researcher had not done the work diligently. So, it is very important that due respect is given or due attention is given to this literature review, even though it may seem that it is just a literature review, but not directly about the plan of work, but it is very important. So, is the aims and objectives. So, these should be the achievement, the goals or outcomes of the project. There can be immediate objective, secondary objective, the immediate goal, the far reaching goals, all has to be done properly, and one has to say it in a very clear, crisp language rather than saying in a roundabout way. Subsequent that is the research, design and method. This is the methodology or the way this has to be done. So, this is what the chemist think about carrying out the research. So, this has to be spelled out properly, including specific thoughts and ideas and approaches. It cannot be very vague. Sometimes the proposal is grand, but methodology is very obscure. The researcher does not spell out exactly how he is going to achieve the objective. Now, there is a fine line. Now, a researcher may think that, okay, what's the point? Why should I give the methodology in detail? Because if I don't get funded, I may get scooped also. Because if I reveal my methodology and it goes into somebody's hand and he gets the idea and he gets the means. Methodology means means of executing the idea. He gets the means to do that. So, then I get scooped. Now, that is something that one has to take a risk or chance. Usually it does not happen, and also since it is submitted to the funding agency and anybody reviewing the proposal is under oath of proper professional conduct, any other unforeseen and unethical conduct of that proposal may lead to some prosecution, or maybe would make the one open to prosecution for violation of their code of conduct. So, a researcher need not worry about not being explicit in methodology, because a practitioner who is going to fund the proposal, who is an expert in the area, really evaluate the quality of the proposal based on the methodology. So, if somebody is very obscure about methodology or does not give it in detail, so that would jeopardize the chance of the proposal getting funded in a big way, a big time. So, it is important that this methodology are presented as clearly and in details as possible. So, that comes with the methodology. After methodology, this ethical considerations, then comes an important thing, which is budget. This is the most important part of a research proposal, and the budget should predict and include all cost of all aspect of research. So, whatever one feel, that should be the real. Do not feel shy in asking if that is genuine. If the needs are genuine, please ask what would be needed to get the project through. Now, out of being shy, if somebody falls short of asking what would be the genuine amount, then the person may never be able to deliver the project. Also, on the same breath, I would like to say, don't ask things which are remotely connected to your project, which are not really needed in the project. The way it is important not to ask things which are not needed in the project, in the same breath it is very important to identify what all things are needed in the project and to ask them to the hilt. Also, there should be some contingency. Ask for additional allowance for unpredictable expenses, delays, raising cost. Sometimes the forex at the time when the instrument is proposed, whatever would the exchange rate, later on when the project is granted, the exchange rate goes high and then the overall money is not sufficient to buy. So, for all those things, some contingency fund should be asked and also should be justified. And then appendices should have any supporting informations that you think may be relevant. Sometimes they will ask for a quotation of the equipments that one is proposing in the project, or any other document, supporting documents that one needs to give, quotation, endorsements, letters, so on and so forth, the one needs to provide. And lastly, one comes to the citations. The proposal usually ends with citations. The relevant ones one should cite and do not cite unnecessarily. With this, we come to the end of this discussion on how to write a research proposal. I have divided my talk into several sections. starting with what would be a good research proposal, what would be the expectations of the committee, and the last part where was on what would be the body of a research proposal and what are the sections and what one should do while writing out the proposal. So, with that I come to the end of my today's discussion on it. So, I will stop here and end today's session.